My name is Rich Brown. I am with the Major Taylor Project. It's sponsored by the Cascade Bicycle Club. We are in 18 schools, like was said, in Seattle and Tacoma. And the goal of our program is to empower the youth that we work with through cycling. So we use the bike as a tool to attract the youth, but then beyond that, once we have their engagement, their participation, their attention, we open up a lot of more possibilities to them. We offer them opportunities, mentorship opportunities, opportunities that the bike connects them to. So one of our other goals is to get these youth to stay engaged and remain engaged and to return back. So far, we've been very successful with that, bringing in over half a dozen of our graduates to come back and actually teach cycling in the schools that they graduated from.
Thanks, Rich. Duane, do you want to talk about Nakama Kai a little bit and what you do?
Aloha. Nakama Kai literally means children of the sea, and we're all part of that, being children of the sea. And our mission is to empower youth by putting them into the land, putting them into the ocean, creating a deeper sense of love and responsibility for the natural environment as well as themselves. And the idea behind that is to create access to the ocean for keiki that don't always have access, because there tends to be a large amount of children at home who don't know how to swim and who don't have access to learning surfing, swimming in the ocean, and other sports. Putting them into the ocean, creating that relationship, and in return, that relationship they have with the ocean will be a part of them as they get older and become business leaders, politics, all these different genres of influence, and hopefully the environment will be a part of their decision making. It won't be just a byproduct. So they'll be loving and stewarding the aina, or the land and the ocean as well.
Thank you. Lori?
So hello everyone, my name is Lori Ward and I'm the Executive Director for Figure Skating in Detroit. And this is year 3 for figure skating in Detroit. We're the first and only branch of figure skating in Harlem, who now has 23 years in the business of empowering girls. And so we're not a figure skating program, we're really an academic and leadership program for girls of color. It's all about girl power and really making sure that they are ready to be the next leaders in their city, in their communities, and as was said by my fellow panelists, to come back and to give back in the program. So we combine the power of education and leadership with the grace and discipline of figure skating. And historically speaking, figure skating was not accessible to inner city girls or any city youth, and in this scenario, inner city girls. And so we're happy to be able to provide this to our girls. And again, at the end of the day, it's about creating leaders, empowering them, and making sure that they can be all that they can be, to be the women that they're meant to be.
Thank you very much, all three of you. You know, I could ask just one of you questions for hours. We could have a great discussion, I'm sure. I know we're probably running a little behind, and so we'll try to get at the meat of the theme of the panel is to encourage sports sampling, get kids to try as many things as they can, things that they might not normally think of doing, not the obvious things. And so there are barriers, natural barriers, coincidental barriers. I'd like to maybe stick to that idea with the three of you today. And why don't we go the opposite direction, start with Lori, come this way, and each of you can kind of hit on a couple ideas. Lori, I guess I was hoping you could talk about there is the perception that figure skating is a very pampered sport. It's a sport of elites, and it's a very fancy sport, and there's that perception is strong. And you also run the program that focuses on girls only, and maybe you could talk about what's the value of doing that, and how about that, the perceptions, how does that limit how kids get in, who gets in? Maybe those are some ideas.
Sure. So first and foremost, it's definitely not pampered. I don't know how many people in here have laced up some blades and get on the ice, but it's really very it's very challenging. It's very, you have to be strong, and you have to be disciplined in order to do the things that the girls do on the ice. And we have girls come to us starting at age 6 until they graduate from high school, so 6 through 18. And you know, some come with experience as skaters. Most, more than half, come with 0 experience on the ice. And within a year, they are doing some amazing things. So yeah, that is a misconception. It definitely is a true sport and takes a lot of discipline and courage and teamwork. In terms of who
who
has
comes to the
access to
sport,
it?
and there's sort of an expectation, oh, this sport is for this kind of person.
Absolutely.
How do you change that?
As I alluded to earlier, historically, it was not something that was made accessible to inner city youth. I mean, it's a very expensive sport. I mean, we're a nonprofit organization, so, you know, through grants and foundations, donors, individual, corporate, we're able to do what we need to do for our girls. We are here for all girls in the city of Detroit in terms of if you have a commitment and you are ready to do what you need to do to be committed to your academics. It's about sisterhood, so you have to have that spirit of team and unity. And so if you have that, then you can come skate with us and come learn and grow with us. So we take in girls from all over metropolitan Detroit, and we encourage all those girls to come and spend time with us and to learn and grow, as I stated.
Thanks, Lori.
You're welcome.
Wayne, so this I know a little bit more about the surfing in Hawaii. I think there's an idea that if you live in Hawaii, you grow up in Hawaii, well, of course you surf. It must just happen magically, but it doesn't. You have to learn it. You have to have the avenue to learn it. Maybe you can talk about what natural barriers exist, how we can solve those. Also, I was hoping that you could talk about native Hawaiians who invented the sport. Is it less accessible or more accessible to them in Hawaii, this sport?
Okay, thanks. So one of the things in Hawaii, the perception I've known as a traveling surfer is a lot of people assume everybody in Hawaii is a great surfer or great in the ocean at swimming. And as that perception kept coming up on the way home from places, it made me think, okay, what is the real numbers and what does it look like? And it came to my attention that maybe 30%, if we're lucky, 40% of the children in Hawaii know how to swim. And that's in a place where we're surrounded by water on an ocean. So that's not too good. I mean, if you really think about it, no matter where you are in the state, you're maximum 30 minutes from a coastline or an ocean. And we have some of the roughest oceans in the world. So in that, we have a problem within our education system and in our state where it's not being taught. It's not a part of what's important in our communities. And it becomes an access right. So if you have family or friends sometimes, but mostly family, who will take you to the beach, then you know the ocean and you access it. So you learn how to swim, you learn how to read the environment, and you become what we call ma'a. You become familiar with conditions and you study them. Now, the rest of the community that doesn't have that access has different ways of approaching it, and some of it is by teaching fear. And so if they tell their children they're going to drown or a shark's going to eat them, that'll keep them out of the water. And then that's a double-edged sword, because now they're not teaching the children ocean, and when they do want to go in the ocean with their friends one day, we've had 18-year-old youth drown at home and die because they want to go swimming with their friends, but they don't have any knowledge about it. And so really comes down to an access point. And where I'm from in Makaha, we had tons of people at the beach to show us those points and teach us as a community. And then yet, neighbors of mine in Makaha never went to the beach, never knew how to swim, never knew how to surf, even though we had one of the greatest resources. And if you're a surfer and a water person, Makaha is very famous and very known for its waves, its watermen, and its surfers. So it just dawned on me, how bad is this in the rest of the state? Like, is this prominent amongst other places? And it is. And if you can imagine, we have our own inner city situations where land-based sports are prevalent and they're 5 minutes from the ocean but not utilizing it. We started our nonprofit 10 years ago. We're on our 11th year, and it's still interesting that people sometimes don't understand why we're doing it, because even from within there's a perception that why do we need this? The people who surf don't really realize that there is not so many non-surfers and non-swimmers around us. And then with regards to the Hawaiian community, there is a lot of Hawaiians who don't know how to swim and don't know how to surf. There's tons of economic barriers is a big one, because mom and dad are both working a lot, so it's really up to the children to either figure out how to do it themselves, or if they're lucky, they got an uncle and auntie, again, it will take them, but otherwise, access to the ocean is very limited.
Can the schools play a better role? I mean, this is something we try to get at in the report. And schools are the natural way to an avenue for sports. And what could they be doing?
Definitely, the schools should play a better role, and the biggest buzzword in our state is liability. And so they feel that it's a liability to have ocean education in the system. So taking children to the beach is too much and too dangerous. And my point to them is that it's a liability that we don't teach the ocean, because that's how we're going to get more youth drownings, which is one of the number one causes of youth deaths in the whole nation, and including in Hawaii. And we have to look at it more constructively than that, not by what is going to be dangerous, but how do we make sure that as we teach our children about the ocean, they'll actually make the ocean safer for even our visitor industry, because we have such an influx of visitors, 10 million visitors a year, and we are 1.8 million residents, that actually the public can be a big part of keeping everybody safe, which already surfers are a part of that, doing more saving than actually lifeguards do sometimes. We put a program into place where we're doing in-class ocean education for fourth graders statewide, but I've been on that project for 3 years and still haven't been able to get it to be mandatory. The barriers are so well put up to resisting putting these kind of programs in place that 3 years later, it's still not even a part of the curriculum as a mandatory need. So we're working towards it.
Lots there. Rich, yes, I want to make sure you have time too. Cycling. How is cycling as a sport perceived by youth of color? Is it this thing that only white kids do, and how do we change that?
Yeah, there are many different perceptions, and the perceptions come from different ethnic cultures and different backgrounds. So, for example, sometimes from the African American community, I hear youth mention that it's not cool to ride a bike. In some of the immigrant or first generation communities, they feel that if they're seen on a bicycle, that they're from a lower class. Other perceptions are more or less they're socioeconomic barriers. And so the way that we address those barriers to the students is the youth is we show them examples. The program is named in honor of Marshall Major Taylor, which was the first African American world champion. So by showing them that there is someone that looks like them that does this is a big, huge motivator to inspire them to want to attempt to do that. And so with the other barriers, it's us coming in and, we bring bicycles into the schools that we work in. The schools that we work in are intentionally chosen by their free and reduced lunch rates. So we want to ensure that we are reaching the demographic that we're aiming for.